Okay, I'm back on the 88 Ford Thunderbird TurboCoupe, and I believe this is a common problem, and I think it's going to be a fairly easy fix, I hope. But if you can hear that buzz, that is actually the windshield wipers getting stuck and not being able to return. They're all the way off on the stock right here, and then as soon as I turn it on, it's on delay right now. The buzz goes away, and eventually they'll wipe and come back down. And if I turn the stock off, it does not want to return down. That's low, turn it off. There, it gets stuck. It does this almost every single time. I have to sit there and fiddle with it, or just let it go and park it and shut the key off, and the buzzing will stop. But I think if we dig into the actual wiper motor, we'll see the contacts and we can just clean them, and then we can fix this issue. It looks like the wiper motor is fairly easy to get to. We got 3 bolts here, and then 1 below electrical connection. I don't believe there is one down here, which would be extremely hard to get to, so that's good. First thing I want to try to do is get the electrical connector off, and there are locking tabs on both sides. Those actually look fairly decent. Use a little cleaning, but for the most part, I think they're okay. And then an 8mm. Get the rest of the motor off. Need a bit of an extension to get down to the bottom one. There's that. To actually get to the clip to remove it from the arms, kind of had to twist it around 180 degrees to get it out of the hole far enough to get to that thing. I was going to say it was an easy clip, but foiled me a little bit. There you go, just lift and pull. And it slides right off. Now we have access to the motor. And what I'm hoping all I have to do is take off some of these 1/4-inch bolts here around the outside, and it'll split and we can get access to to the part that I need to clean. Okay, the bolts are out. Looks like this ground wire is holding me up. Same bolt as the rest, so no big deal there. Oh, that's not good. Got a broken tooth right there. So that's just a bushing. That's just a locator rod for that one, so it's in the motor. That's kind of cool, but that means I could have done this off car, or just left the rest of this in the car. Possibly. Again, it's the same bolts as the rest. No. That's just the bushings, or the No, it's not in here because there's no wiring over here. Oh crap. So it looks like that right there is the only thing. It's that gear right there. It shows it's going which way. There's some awful loose in there. Maybe it's supposed to rock back and forth. I can kind of see tabs off the side that might be touching some contacts. So it looks like the contacts are inside there. So it could be that we need to unrivet this thing here and here to get access to all that. That sucks. I wish I hadn't taken off the motor now. I need to get them brushes back on there somehow. Looks like it's got little keepers. Maybe for holding back brush wire. No, it's just for holding the wire. I don't know. Usually there's little holes to hold the brushes back until you get them shaft all the way down in there. That sucks. Okay, so after tearing this down, it looks like down here is your switches. And that would have been after taking this off. And it is riveted in a couple spots. So I might still be able to access it. Well, in anticipation of putting this back together, I have sanded the contacts right there, and I've greased that. But I definitely need to unrivet drill bit. Chunks of rivet out of there. Looks like that one's actually part of ground. Okay, so there's a, looks like a plastic rod that goes all the way through, and then there's two clip ends on this side. Pull it out. You get that part out. Cleaning these might prove to be a problem. Alright, so it looks like that rocker sits on a couple of copper tabs that are just kind of held in by spring, but can come out. And I can already tell they look dirty, very dirty. Getting this one out might be easier than getting the back one out. And that one don't look dirty at all. The other one did. How we're going to clean underneath those contacts is what I'm worried about. They don't look bad at all. Poke around here. Well, obviously just a little sandpaper is going to clean the top sides of these just fine. You know, I'd say this is probably not the one causing the problem. However, cleaning the other side of that piece that it rests against, well, that could be massively difficult. Okay, so that piece wasn't as hard to get out. Ugh. Oh man, look at that. You can tell. That has been blackened badly. But it will clean off. The only problem is, almost guaranteed, the bottom side of that other piece is in the exact same condition. So I want to poke around and see what I can do here. Upon further inspection, those two links of copper also touch on the bottom side. So I need to make sure those are clean on the bottom too, which they were in pretty nice shape anyway. Well, the copper plates are riveted You can see the rivets right there. So I'm actually thinking about drilling those rivets too to get them out. Just to clean them. Ugh. And that one is terrible. Right there. Hope it cleans off. It's copper, it should. I'd say that's probably the one that's giving me all the problems though. Yeah, it'll clean off. Now I just don't have to go find out how to fasten those back together after I get them all clean. Now this is the fourth one, the last one I've taken out. Been down here. And it does look like it is about the only other one that needed cleaned. However, you do need to get to the one in front of it to get it out. It's the one that came up and had the ground up there. The one on the underside would have been the one that needs cleaned. The bottom one looks fine. So it may be in your best interest to go ahead and take all four of them out to clean them. Well, I just pulled out one of the rivets from down there. Look how long that thing is. So not only do I need that diameter, but I need that length. I need kind of a flat head. Man, I don't know if I'm going to find anything like that in this pile, but I also need probably a nut. I don't know. I may end up trying to find rivets that are something like that, aluminum rivets, and try to rivet it back in there somehow, because I don't know that I'm going to find a screw that's going to work. Well, I forgot I had these, but I got a bag of 440 screws and nuts, but I might actually have to drill the holes out just a little bit bigger through everything to get these to fit. But man, 440 is pretty small anyway. And then I'll definitely have to cut them to length to match that rivet length, which I've already lost. But I think on this side, I'm not sure how much vertical clearance I have. Maybe not much of any. But on this side, I think that middle area right there is pretty wide open. I might only have to worry about the metal contacting the metal that went right above it when it was like covering it, when the front copper piece was covering the back rivet. I might have to worry about that. But this last contact, I won't have to worry about hardly anything. And I've already lost the contact too. I know where it is, it's in that big drawer of crap. Okay, so according to the caliper, we need about a .11 size drill bit, and a 7/64 is .109. So that should be plenty close, which is what I got in here. Oh, that is some hard plastic. That, or I got a really, I got a really dull bit. No surprise there. Okay. It just barely fits down the hole. Let's see. Plus I need to drill these bigger too. to be a challenge. Definitely need to find a better bit. Okay, so according to my drill chart, 35 is a 0.11. Oh, that mine looks incredibly dull. But also, 34 is a 111, and 33 is a 113. So this potentially could all work also. Cool. So now what I want to figure out is if I have clearance vertically on this side for the head of that screw or not. I'm going to say that might be okay. The bottom side's a different story, of course. Let's see, I know that was this one. And those are very similar. I'm actually going to have to go back to the video to make sure which one's which here. But I do know they're all going to need the hole made bigger as well. Being copper, that shouldn't be too difficult. If you can get a hold of it. Okay, those are done. Still have to end up doing the other two electrical prongs on that side. Now I just need to figure out which one of these is which, and I'll get back to you on that. Okay, I think this is the way it went, because if I remember right, underneath this one, down there, there wasn't a contact underneath that side. And I'll go back and watch the video and verify that, but I think that's how it went. I think there was bottom top contacts on both sides over here, but that one right there, there was not. That seems right. Anyway, assuming that's right, that goes in there like that, and then that one's going to go right there. So we definitely do not have a lot of room right there because the copper is touching that nut. So one of the things that I can do is pull that, and actually try putting the head on this side. It might be a lot easier to cut these down from the electrical prong side. And again, I might find out these are still too tall. Boy, I would say, yeah, it's touching it, so I'm going to try to find something with a shallower head on it. Like a countersunk, or I don't know if they make 440 in a carriage bolt style, but that would be perfect. Or if I just find some rivets to replace the original ones. All I know is this ain't gonna work the way it's looking now. Well, looks like Ace Hardware come to the rescue with some really tiny metric stuff. I think it's M2.5, 12 millimeter long, I think, and I'm not really sure. Yeah, that's going to be more than I need. I think I needed like 0.3 inches plus whatever the nut was. So I may have drilled my stuff to M440 size a little too early, but hopefully, yeah, it still catches that head. That's a nice, like a countersunk head, so it'll be very low clearance. That's really good. Couldn't find any lock washers, but I got washers for both sides just in case the holes were too big. But I think I might be in good shape. And I think I'll also try to maybe clean these electrical tabs a little bit while I got them out. I think they're more like maybe a steel coated brass or something like that. Steel plated. Chrome plated, I don't know. So anyway, that seems to be, oh, and yeah, the 4 bolts, 4 nuts, and 8 washers was like $5. So the stuff ain't cheap, but it's what I got. So I'm gonna oh, I need to make sure of which piece was which down here, and then I'm gonna try to start putting this thing back together. Well, so what I think I want to do is probably put the flat head on the electrical prong side, and that way I can have, oh, that looks really close actually. Yikes. What did I say these were, like 16 mil? That sounds right. And I did take a snapshot of what was what, and I think I was right. I think that one, yeah, it was like that, because I don't think there was a bottom contact on that side. And then I think I had these worked out. The bottom contacts are pretty obvious of what's what there. So this had to be like that, since that one covered that rivet. So it looks like I've just got barely enough room. I might be able to get a washer and 1 nut on there. Boy, that looks really tight. Now the big problem is that going to clear? I'm gonna say no. Yeah, it might. If I can get that flat on there. Other than taking the washer off and then grinding down a little bit of the head of that bolt, or not the head, but the threaded end. There's not much left there to take off. But I'm going to try assembling this a little further and see what happens. Okay, next problem, and this is for people who's going to try to do this. I would go for the 2mm. Probably still needs 15, 16 millimeters long, because the 2.5mm doesn't quite thread through the holes of the electrical prongs. So I need to find 2.5mm or a 0.95 drill bit to open those up just a little bit more. However, it does look like the 2.5mm screws will fit through the plastic housing without any problem, so that's a good thing. Well, they're all back in there in the right order. Last thing I want to do is check to make sure they're not touching. The voltmeter out on continuity test, and that bolt and that bolt should not have continuity, and they do not. That's good. Hopefully far enough apart where they will not arc. If so, we could actually flip them upside down and put the nut on this side. I did on this last one since it was down further than the rest. And I think the other ones could be done the same way. We're only really worried about this piece fitting back down underneath all of that. I can definitely feel where that nut is sticking up too high now. So I don't know, I think the connector go in there and still make all those connections just fine though. I'm going to shine those up a little bit too while I'm got a little bit of access to them. I got all those three done. So I'll proceed. Something else I noticed was, if that's supposed to be a ground contact, then there should be shiny metal right there. So I'm going to sand that down too, just so there's a connection there. Okay, got that, and now I realize I forgot to buy screws for those two rivets I drilled out, but I still have the 440s. I think that'll do nicely there. So I'm going to put those in. I can finally assemble this back together. Extremely easy. Looks right to me. And we get our rocker in here. Oh, there's a clue that the that bottom contact didn't need to be there. That rocker's not even there. I laid in there like that, and then the rod come through the side. And just push through. There it is. Now I can get it bolted down to the main plate there. Okay, the next part's a little bit tricky. You're thinking, well, how am I going to get that back onto there because of the brushes? Well, the brushes can be held back by their wires on these tabs. And what we can do is simply pull this part out, insert it first, and then let the brushes go. And then we can just put this back down on there. And we got a notch right here to go around that plastic part. What you want to do is try to hold onto this so this doesn't come back on off of those brushes. Perfect. And I can get a couple of those screws in there. Hold her down. Okay. Last thing I want to do before I put this thing back together is I'm going to add a bunch of grease all up in these gears. I think that'll help it move faster and freer. Okay, all greased up, ready to go back together. One of the things I was worried about was those new 440s that I put in to hold the plastic part would be in the way, but it looks like there's holes cut out right where they would be, so that's perfect. Excellent. Put in the rest of these screws. Get my ground back to hook it back together, and then go test it on the car. I'm about ready to connect to my ground wire, and I realized the other side probably wasn't too good a shape either. Yes, I guess it's not that bad. Worth a cleaning though. That side too. That part just slips out. So it's probably making ground contact on the bolt right about there, so might want to sand that a little bit too. What I'm going to try to do is just plug it in, and first make sure that that's going to seat all the way down in there and be okay. And then also to operate it before I connect it to the wipers, just because it'll be easier to look, make sure it's working alright. I did find my ground strap screw, and apparently I missed a third screw for mounting the sensor housing, or the contacts housing, but I think it'll be fine. And then also, I'm not real sure, it looks like there's a bunch of grease up in here, so I might try to spread some grease on there. I don't know exactly how all this works, but it looks like it could use some grease on it. Might be one of the reasons the other one was going so slow. So I'm just going to wire this up and turn it on. Well, the plug definitely looks like it's flush enough down in there to where it's still catching properly, and probably going to seal it right. So now I'm going to turn the key on and turn the wipers on and see what happens. Alright, so I've got low, high, off, off. When I turn it off, it doesn't seem to do anything else, so I might still have a problem here. I'm not sure. And yes, I do still have a problem. I'm not sure if you can make that out, but it looks like somebody tried to repair a wire before, right here on that contact, and it didn't stay. from me moving it around, so I'm gonna have to repair that. That might be the return contact or whatever. Okay, so that wire is fixed. Let's try it again. Okay, low, high, off. Shit, I still got the buzz in here. Still not returning. So I got the parts one on, and now it's working. After, you know, I turned it off, now it's not working, but if I move it a little bit, it wasn't before. Not sure why I'm getting sparks either. So there, it just moved back on its own. So it could be that this assembly is what needs greased on the new one. Well, after going through all of that, the one thing that I've noticed, see, the old one doesn't have this cover right here, and I shouldn't say older one, the spare one doesn't have the cover, the one that was on the car does. It doesn't look like it's very easy to remove either, but this right here is like a spring capture, and there's like a little one-way clutch system to where that way it spins the internal crank, but the other way it comes right off of it and it catches. And the only thing I think of is maybe just all of this inside of here just needs to be lubed up really well. And the problem is that bolt is on the shaft of that gear and it doesn't want to come off very well, so you may have to put an impact on it to get it off. I don't know how to get the cover off just yet. I was thinking maybe blow air into the spring capture part and just blow it off that way. It's one thought. Well, I got the cover off with a pick, and I got the bolt out with impact, and it's just not going to come off there very easy. So I think I'm just going to resort to spraying a ton of maybe this silicone grease spray down in there and all around the mechanism on the bottom and everything, and then put it back on there and see what happens. So sprayed it down with silicone, and now I got this problem. It's off and it goes right past, and I've seen it do this before, but when it just goes past its mark, so it just keeps going again. And yeah, the wire is still connected. It's fine. It's not the wire. So yeah, still more problems. Well, that time it sparked. I don't know where or why. No good. Okay, so now I may have figured out why it was sparking. Is because that ground wire wasn't grounded to anything, so now I've got a jumper wire over to ground, and it returned itself too. So that may have been, oh crap, that's gonna be hard to keep it on there. May have been the major reason why I'm having so much trouble. Trying to get this thing tested. We'll turn it back on again. Low, high, low, off. Look at that, returned just fine. Well, that poses a bunch of other questions, but let's put it back on there and make sure it still works fine. Alright, so we're all back together. Power's on. High, low, off. There, that's the way it's supposed to work. So I guess really what I want to know now, and I'll have to ask for comments and maybe post this video on some threads on some, maybe on the NATO forum and maybe Turbo Ford, is the grounding wire the main problem, or lubricating that clutch mechanism, or does the motor really need rebuilt? Because I kind of feel like I wasted my time rebuilding that. I mean, it was a learning process and it might be useful for somebody, but I'm not really sure that was the problem here. So if anybody knows for sure, let me know.